Hi, friends. Welcome to the Windy Ranch Homestead or ranch itself. I'm Steve, and I'm taking time on this video to make a longer video. This will be the longest video I have made for our channel, the Windy Ranch. I created this channel, I would say 2 years ago, maybe three, and I was posting a lot of short videos on it. Never did a video as I'm going to be doing today. But I came across it about 2 weeks ago, and I've been kicking the idea around if I was going to start doing videos again for the channel. And I decided, you know what, I'm either going to do this or I'm not going to do that. So I started to place small, short little videos out there just to get the channel off and going again. And today, what I want to do with this video is give you a backstory of how my wife Marie and I got to be in West Texas on this property and doing what we're doing as homesteaders, and how things have been going, as well as what our plans are, including our future plans. We arrived in West Texas at the end of August of 2016. We put our RV into a RV park and then start looking for land, and we came across this piece of property, which was buy here, pay here type thing, a down payment, and then so much each month. And by time all the wood paperwork was done, a $72,000 piece of property would have cost us well over $236,000 if we went for the full 30 years period of time. And I knew that I was going to pay this sucker off as quickly as I can. So we moved on the property October 1st of 2016, and we set up the RV. I hooked up the solar panels, got a 550-gallon holding tank, got water hauled in, and we also purchased 5 40-foot shipping containers because we wanted to have a shipping container home, and that's what we wanted for a home. And one of them was going to be for a workshop slash storage. And we needed some place to put all our stuff anyway on the move. So the shipping container worked out fine. Now at the time, the shipping containers were $2,000 a piece, $100 to move them on to your property, which I thought that was fine. That was good, especially compared to today. They're $4,000 or $5,000 for a friggin' 40-foot shipping container, and they want hundreds of dollars to deliver them. And it's like, damn, I know about inflation, but that's really ridiculous, especially, over, well, I suppose you could say over the last 6 years, they went right through the roof. So we had the shipping containers. We had several plans on how we were going to build our house, um, and what we're going to do on the property. And we went forward with it. My wife got us a server job in town at a small Mexican restaurant, and she's working there. I don't know, about a month or so, maybe a little longer. And I'm on the property, cutting things down, cleaning up the property. Because when we moved on the property, there was nothing here. No power, no water, nothing. Just bare land. And that's what we were looking for at the time. And the property was what, 33 and a quarter acres. So, and we got it for 72,000, which I thought was good, a good price for that at that time. And so we continued to work. We got some goats, some chickens, and we were starting to build it up. And then one day my wife comes home, Marie comes home and say, honey, I want to have a bakery in town. And I say, you want to have a what? She said, I want a bakery. And I said, no, I don't think so. Because I've owned restaurants in the past, and I know the headaches of owning and operating a restaurant. And I wasn't into it. So I said, no, we're not doing it. And so she, put her head down and walked away. And you knew she didn't like the answer. And I said to myself, oh, great, you just become an asshole for the next week or two. And so a couple days goes by, and I'm thinking about it. I said, look, babe, I tell you what, we'll do this. We'll do a bakery, but it has to be more than just a bakery. It has to be something that will also add more income to it. So we decided to do a bakery slash sandwich shop. And she was pickle as pink. So we turned around and went in town, found a building, a small building, and she continued to work at the Mexican restaurant as a server. And I continued to work on the building. And everything at the homestead was put off to one side. So I'm in the building, remodeling it, ordering the equipment, setting everything up. And August of 2017, we opened. I would say 6 months later, we realized, oh shit, the building is too small. We need a bigger place. So we started asking people around town, look, this is the situation. Do you know a place? Well, they said, we talked to one guy and he said, yeah, I want to sell my place. I said, really? You want to sell your pizzeria? So I'm thinking, well, you know what? That'd be a nice second income coming in, the restaurant, the pizzeria. And then he said, well, see that building next door? I said, yeah, that goes with it. I said, you shouldn't be. He said, no, perfect. The building was twice the size of the building we had when we opened the restaurant, and we're just going to move that over here. So while we're operating the pizzeria to keep the money flow going, the original restaurant was shut down. I was in the building next door doing all the renovation and setting everything up and getting things moved in. And before I could get the equipment in there, I had to purchase a 12 by 24 building for an attachment to the back of the building because I didn't want the kitchen to take up the dining room area. So we added that kitchen onto it. And once again, it was just a shell. Went in there, put all the electrical, all the plumbing, did all the sheetrocking, the flooring, everything, and move all the equipment in it. It took me, it took me a good 2 months to do that by myself. And it came out really good. So we just operated that for 7 months. And then we had another opportunity to buy the lodge next door to the cafe. And I talked to the previous owner. He was going to hold the paper on the deal. And we had a contract and everything. We draw up the contract. It was all done legally. And this lodge had 14 rooms. It had two long buildings. One of them had the laundry facility plus 7 rooms. The other one had the office plus 7 rooms. Well, it needs some TLC. So I gave it a good paint job. It looks really good. I painted everything. I started to replace the doors, the exterior doors of each room, and started putting money into it. And things was going okay. And there was times that we questioned if we was moving too fast because the town was looking at us as being outsiders and that we were coming in, buying up the town, taking it over. And in reality, they couldn't understand that that's not what our intentions was. We wanted to help the town, to bring in new revenue, to help the town. And I don't know how many town meetings I went to explain to these people, look, you need new money to come into your town. And they didn't want to hear that. They didn't want to hear it. They wanted to keep everything the way it is. Well, this town is a dying town, and it continues to this day to die because the locals won't allow new money to flow into that town. So COVID showed up. You know, it's one thing being a small town with about 1,000 people and having one small business and have COVID hit, but it's another thing to have three small businesses and have COVID hit in a small town. We did everything we could do to try to survive COVID. We just didn't survive. So one day I walked through the door. I said, Marie, we need to talk. And we sat down, and I said to her, we're done. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. We're done. And of course, she started to cry. And I say, look at the spreadsheet. This is what we bring in. This is what we're spending. And she said, how could we do this during this period of time? I said, because I'm good with numbers and I'm good with money. But unfortunately, I can't steal from Peter to pay Paul anymore. Peter don't have anything. So we started to shut everything down, and it was a miracle because we had a corporation approach us. They wanted to buy the one city block that we own in this town because they wanted to put a truck stop up. Well, they didn't put a truck stop up. They put a glorified convenience store with a lot of gas pumps. It was not a truck stop. It was a gas station. But anyway, so the corporation and I throw numbers around for, I don't know, 3-4 weeks. And finally they say, look, this is the best we can do. I said, well, give me a day or two. Think about it. I'll talk it over with my wife and I'll get back to you. Well, 2 days goes by and I contact them. I say, I tell you what, I'll take that if I can take anything and everything that I want off the property. And they say, you can take everything you want. You can take all the friggin' buildings if you want. The more you take, the less we have to deal with. We only want the land. I say, okay, it's a done deal then. I'll accept your proposal and we'll go forward. Well, during that period of time of waiting, making sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, while they were doing all of that, I hired a company to come in and take the pizzeria because it was a portable building. It was a 14 by 24 portable building, and moved it onto our property. And I did the same thing with the addition to the kitchen, which was a 12 by 24. We picked that up and moved it to the property. The lodge itself had I believe it was a 6 by 10 or 6 by 12 metal building. We grabbed that, hauled that there, and the roof on the lodge was R panel, metal roof, and we strip all the R panel off that and haul that to the property as well. And we took everything. We took water tanks, hot water tanks. We took showers. We took plumbing. We took furniture. We took electrical boxes. We took everything that we could. The only regret I had by looking back on it is I didn't take the friggin' 2x4s because I didn't realize at the time 2x4s was $7.59 a 2x4. Because the last time I bought 2x4s, they were like $3.49. So that's the only regret I have looking back at that is I didn't take the 2x4s. Well, then we moved everything. We paid off everything we owed, and we had a decent chunk of change left. So we went and paid off our property. So we by paying it off as early as we did, we were actually only paid $72,000 on the property. If it would have went the whole 30 years, we would have had to pay $236,000. So that was a good move on our part to pay the property off. And then of course we went and had to get a much bigger tractor than what we had when we came down here, and that was a pretty penny. And then of course when you look at getting a stock trailer so you can move livestock around, and then you had a flatbed trailer so you can move equipment as well as material around, it adds up real quick. And I started to do the numbers on building things out of wood. And I said, there's no way in hell we're going to be able to build a barn, build this and that out of wood. We don't have enough money to do it. We don't have enough money to do the house, framing out the house inside the shipping containers. And I looked at metal, framing it all out, metal and sheeting it with metal. And that was just as expensive and probably a little bit more expensive than it was for the wood. So I went on to YouTube and got an idea, cattle panels. So I purchased 200 cattle panels. I think it was like $27 a cattle panel. And we brought all of that there. We purchased the T-posts, the fencing, all the fencing we need. We got everything that we need and haul it to the property. Right? Good deal. So we end up starting to build things up, and we started to get more and more animals. We built a barn. We have, you know, we built all these buildings, and each and every last one of them are not completely done because of one thing or another comes up. Oh, I got to stop this project and do this one over here. Oh, I got to stop that one and go over there. And it's like, then one day you just wake up and say, oh shit, I got too many projects going on at once. I need to finish one at a time. And then we started to have issues with our lovely neighbors. And to this day, we outlasted them. They're no longer around. Hallelujah. You know, I tell you, some people, they don't make good neighbors. I built a barn. It needs to be finished. It's a 36 by 40. I built a hydroponic greenhouse, which is 28 by 60 feet long, and built three cages that were 28 by 50. One cage was for a rabbit colony, the other one for our not breeder birds, our meat birds, where we had ducks, turkeys, quail, broilers. That cage was housing those. And then we had another cage that was strictly for our laying hens. And then we started to move the shipping containers into place once we figured out what we wanted for a home. Then the work started on that. And we got the hydroponic greenhouse up and running. We got the chicken coop up and running. We got all these cages doing good. And winter, I can't remember what year it was. I want to say it was the winter of 2000. Yeah, it was the winter of 2018, I believe it was. Actually, I can't remember what the damn year it was it was 2021. It was 2021 when I built all of this, okay? And that winter, which would lead us into 2022, for 3 months, we had no eggs whatsoever coming out of the hen house. And I started to look around, why? And I did research and everything. Could nothing I could find that would explain why out of 100 hens we have not one single egg. Well, one day I was on the local Facebook page, and our neighbor up on the ridge was selling eggs. I mean, flats of eggs. Flats are those square flats that you can put a dozen and a half eggs on one flat. Well, they were selling dozens and dozens of eggs. And I said, wait a second, how can they do that? They have like maybe 6 or 8 laying hens up there. And every week they have these flats. So my wife made the suggestion, I wonder if they're coming down into our hen house and taking our eggs. And I looked at Maria and said, if they are, I'm going to friggin' shoot them. Because what I like about Texas, somebody comes in your on your property at night, stealing anything from you, you can shoot them. Hey, good old Texas. Because I would blow their damn kneecaps right off. So we went to we went to the city, and I got a bunch of locks. Came back, I locked everything up. The following morning came, and we had eggs. So we knew right then and there what was happening. They were coming down, taking our eggs, and turning around and selling them. So we took care of that problem. And that same winter, we had a problem with an owl getting into the chicken coop, and they couldn't fly out with a full chicken, so they would tear the hell out of a hen and fly pieces out. And well, one night I caught the owl in the chicken coop, and there was only one way out of that chicken coop, and I stand between the owl and the exit point. Well, make it long story short, that was his last night. So that was another problem. And then we had a problem with um, a bobcat getting into another smaller chicken coop, killing like 10 hens. Just kill them. And that's one thing with bobcats, they just enjoy killing. They just enjoy killing. They don't kill because they're hungry. They enjoy killing. So we got that problem taken care of. No, I didn't take out the bobcat at that time. So that summer or that spring, I went down to the rabbit colony. Walked in. We didn't have any rabbits. I'm looking all over the place for the rabbits. Where the hell is the rabbits? And when I built the rabbit pen, I put I believe it's like a 10-foot, 12-foot, 18 inches or so metal culvert in it, so the rabbits could run through back and forth and everything. And they really enjoyed it, and just gave them another place to get out underneath the weather and all. And I looked in there, and here all these rabbits, 50 something friggin' rabbits, lined up, and they were all dead. And Murray said, well, I'll go get the tractor so we can start pulling them out. I said, no. We're going to leave them there, because whatever killed it, and at the time I suspected it was a bobcat. I say, that son of a bitch is coming back to feast on these tonight. So about 8 o'clock that night, I won't go down there. Sure enough, here they are. And it turned out to be a she. There she is in there. All I saw those eyes looking at me. I said, you're going to come out so I can shoot you, or you're going to just stay in there? Well, I couldn't get a clean shot, so I just kicked the side of the cage enough so she turned around and went to the front portion of the colony. So I went around the front, opened the first door, walked through, looked down. There she is. And at that time, we have a door on it, screen on top, metal on the bottom. And I'm looking at her, and I said, I'm not opening that damn door. So I end up taking the shotgun, put it up to the screen, and pulling the trigger. And that was the end of the bobcat. Now, bobcats, if they hunt during the daytime, there's an issue. If they're either starving or the bobcat itself is sick. And I knew this. And when I pull her out, she was just mangy. She was one hell of a mangy bobcat. And my wife said, I want to tan the fur. I said, what fur? Look at it. It's nasty. And I said, no, we're not tanning the damn thing. So we ended up getting rid of all the rabbits, the bobcat, and everything that day, and we had to start all over again. Well, the first year that we had the greenhouse up, the hydroponic, it was great. I mean, vegetables were growing like hotcakes. I mean, it was just we was having 3 harvests per year, and I mean big harvests. And I said, great, this is great. And the second year came, we get it going really good and everything. And one day I went down there and I put water into the tap off the hydroponic beds with water. And I went back to the house and say, "Hey, babe, tomorrow we're going to go down to the greenhouse and we're going to harvest some veggies." And she was all psyched about it. And so we went down there the following day, walked in, and I said, "What the fuck happened?" Every single plant in that greenhouse was dead. I mean, dead. We looked at each other and what happened? Didn't have a clue what happened. So I go to the beds and I start picking up the floats on it and look underneath. All the root systems were black. She said, "What happened? What turned that?" I said, "I don't know. All I did yesterday is put water from the holding tank into the bed." So our neighbor, another neighbor who was a friend of ours for a few years until she met this new guy, and well, that friendship went out the window. We found out later that her boyfriend dumped a bunch of weed and grass killer into the water tank. So when I transfer the water from the holding tank into the bed, yep, it killed every damn plant we had. I call him out and I said, "You know, I'm going to give you a heads up. You come on my property ever again, I won't say, 'Hey, you.' I'm going to just pull the trigger, knowing that I'm going to blow your friggin' kneecaps right off. Stay off my damn property." "I don't know what you're talking about," he goes and say. "Ah, yeah, you know what the fuck I'm talking about. You come back on my property, I'm going to blow your kneecaps off. Do I make myself clear?" Clear. So he calls the sheriff department. The sheriff department comes up and say, "Mr. Sampson, did you do that? Did you said these things?" "Yeah." And he said, "Well, even though you're in the right, you can't go around telling people you're going to do that." I said, "Why? I'm a person, upfront person. You know, I tell it the way it is." He said, "You have a right if someone comes on your property at night and starts to steal something from you or vandalize your property or anything like that. Yes, you can shoot them in under Texas law." I said, "I know that. I know the damn Texas law." I said, "You forgot that I ran for sheriff in town. You remember that?" So they say, "Yeah, we remember that." Okay. So don't tell me about the law because I know the law. Oh, running for sheriff was another nightmare. But anyway, so after that, I believe there was nothing else happened. But we had all of that happen in 1 year. Losing chickens to a owl, losing chickens to a bobcat, losing rabbits to a bobcat, having our greenhouse sabotaged, having our eggs stolen from us. Really? Really? Boy. So my property now has no trespassing signs all over the place, purple paint all over the place. So everybody knows about me in this area. And a lot of people call me an a-hole. Okay, whatever. I'm only an a-hole to those who tread on me. You know, I'm one of these guys that I can be your best friend you ever asked for. I'll drop everything I'm doing to help you. You put a friggin' knife in my back, that's it. That's done. I'm done with you. You can be laying on the side of the road, bleeding to death, and I will step over your dying carcass and keep on moving. That is who I am. Don't mess with me or what I have. Period. But anyway, yeah. So where are we today? Well, I told Maria, I said, we need to cut back on all these animals because we built this whole thing up on the idea we're going to make all kinds of money selling, rabbit meat, chicken meats, turkeys, you name it, veggies, and all of that. I said, we need to just back off on that. I'd say we're spending a shitload of money on animals that are not producing for us. Yes, they are producing food for us, but we can only eat so much rabbit, so much chicken, and stuff, And meanwhile, while we're eating it, we still have to feed the rest of them. So we have this year started to cut back. We're cutting back on our goats. When we first started, we had boar goats. We got rid of all the boar goats out of here, and we replaced them with a couple Nubians. And somehow we got into getting. We was told it was a Nubian Billy, but it turned out to be Nubian / boar, which did not make me happy. So we're going to get rid of some of the sheep that we have. We're going to get rid of all the sheep and some of the other goats that we have, and we just want to keep the Nubians, because the whole point of having the Nubians is for their, not just for their meat, but primarily for their milk, so we can make cheeses and butter and stuff like that. And so we're going to keep that. We have cut back dramatically on our rabbits. So we got one section for males, one side is for males, one side is for females. And we only have a few of each because, I'm not quite sure which direction we're going on that, but we got enough that we can keep ourselves going with rabbit meat on the property with just a few rabbits that we have. And then on the chickens, on the hens, we have cut back some. I think we went from 125 down to around 60 or so. And we're not going to increase that. We may even decrease that even further. And then, of course, we have something like 30 ducks, Pekin ducks, and we're going to get rid of a lot of them. We're going to be canning a lot of the meat from them, and we're only going to keep a half a dozen or so of those. So we're starting to cut back on that, and
Warning! Warning!
phone going up. My wife is calling me to let me know she's done with work. So anyhow, yeah, the plans for our homestead, I have no idea. Yeah, sorry about that. My wife called me to let me know she's out of work and she's going to stop at the store, grain store, and pick up some horse feed and do a couple other things in town before she head home. But our plan here is, I don't know. The last 6 months we haven't gone anywhere. You know, Sometimes it feels like you're just shoving shit against the tide. It keeps coming back at you, no matter what you do. It's one thing after another. I do work, plumbing, electrical, carpentry, roofing, painting, all of that type, a general contractor. And I do that part time. I'm supposed to be retired, Yeah, well, I'm working just as hard now as I ever did in my life. And that's fine. I don't have a problem. My wife doesn't have a problem of working. We want to do. We don't want to sit around waiting to die. That's not what we do. But when it comes to this place, we're I don't know. We either have money to do and no time, or we have plenty of time and no money. And my wife doesn't make a whole lot of money serving tables in a small restaurant in a small town. And my work is 45 minutes away. And I got a lot of competition in that city of 100,000. So it's like, don't know. I took early retirement because I said, well, if I wait until I'm 70, I may not even be able to collect. So I said, hell with it. I took it at 62. And my wife is also retired, but and she gets a much better check than I do, which is fine. We got to get the money somehow, right? But anyway, it's like I have so many projects that I need to finish. I have a horse barn that I need to finish. I have a house that I need to finish. I have a barn to finish. I just have so a greenhouse. Oh, by the way, something I haven't said. I'm in the process also building a Wallapini greenhouse. I got the hole dug, I got the walls up, I got the framework done. I just got to do a little bit more on the framework and then put the cover on and close in the both sides. Am I going to do this year? Well, sure hell I'm not going to do it this summer. I mean, temperatures now is 100 and plus degrees. It's too late in the summer, too late in the season to actually thinking of putting long days out in the sun building something. So, no, I don't see that happening. It probably won't be done until sometime this late fall, early winter, and then I'll do it. But both Marie and I are we believe in things always work out as long as you keep pushing forward. If you just throw your hands up and give up, nothing is ever going to work out. So we're going to continue pushing forward and see where it all goes. But I'm going to be making a few videos. I want to make a video. I think my next video I'm going to make, I'm going to take you guys around the property, show you exactly what we're building here and all the unfinished projects I have. The other thing is I'm going to make a video also about homesteading, farming, and ranching because people don't really realize how much work is involved of running a ranch, running a farm, or even homesteading. You know, you go on YouTube and they show you all the glamour of homesteading, but I'm telling you, it's rough work. It's a lot of work. It's no 9 to 5 job. It's 24/7. Doesn't matter. You got a homestead, a ranch, or a farm, and I think people need to get. I think people need to have a wake up call when it comes to thinking about farming and ranching and homestead. It's not an easy thing to do. It demands a lot from you. It's just like restaurants. You know, people don't realize the headaches and the problems that come around when you have a restaurant. So I'm going to do videos with truth because I've been a businessman all my damn life, and you know I've owned restaurants, I own martial arts studios, I've owned home improvement business, pizzerias, lodging. I've owned it all, and some of them come easy, others you're at it all the time. There's no let up. It's just bang, bang, bam. You know, and people say, well, you work for yourself. Well, yeah, I work for myself. And your point is, people think that if you work for yourself, you're making all kinds of money. And the truth of the matter, no, a lot of time your employees make a hell lot more money than you make. And that's the truth. But anyway, I'm not going to go into that subject right now. I just wanted to give you a background of a background story on how Marie and I came to West Texas and what we're doing and where we're heading. And like I said, at this point in time, I have freaking no idea. It's one day at a time and trying to figure it out. You know, I know that we both agreed we don't want to spend another 10, 15 years of our lives trying to build this up. You know, it's just at some point in time, you just got to pull the plug on things. And are we thinking of doing that? Yes, we are, but the problem is getting the place to a point where we can actually resell the place and get enough money so we can go from here right into something else. Because neither my wife or I are ready for any assisting living facility or nursing home whatsoever. We don't know. We don't believe in that shit. I think that as long as you can keep moving forward, you should keep moving forward. And I think as long as you are moving forward and not sitting around waiting to die, you live longer. That's just my thought. But anyway, I'm going to end this video. I want to thank you all for listening to the video or watching the video. And if you like the video, give it a thumb up. Leave your comments. I will answer each and every one of them. And share the videos. Hit the like button. Do whatever you need to do to help this channel. I would really appreciate it. Until next time, my friends, take care.